Hello once again, witchy people. You're about to see my cat jump out of the window. Kitty, what you doing? Oh no, here she comes. Anyway, okay, today I'm sat here making things, and I thought as I'm making them I would talk about them. So today we are talking voodoo dolls. Now this is what a lot of people think about when they think about voodoo dolls, a little, little person that you stick pins in. Now, although most, if not all, witchcraft traditions and paths will have like effigy magic or spell work in their history, the best known of those being the voodoo doll. The voodoo doll is actually pretty much a Hollywood invention. It's the amalgamation of basically two practices, and one is the West African practice of Bocio, also known as Bocio, and the ancient European tradition of making Poppets. Now, as much as I don't know about West African magic, I do know a little bit about Poppets. So the English poppet, European poppet, could be made from almost anything. It could be carved from wood, moulded from wax, made from corn stalks or hay, moulded from mud, earth, dung even, and of course fabric. And many times, although the poppet as we know it these days will have quite a humanoid sort of figure, didn't necessarily have to have that shape, and it could just as easily be a spell sachet, so a little sachet filled with items that represent someone, and in some, then the sachet becomes a, think about it like a gris-gris bag. So the spell sachet, the gris-gris bag if you like, becomes an effigy, becomes a poppet when you put a representation of something, of somebody into it. So as soon as something is a representation of somebody, it becomes a poppet. So items belonging to, oh, that stitch went a bit dodgy. Items belonging to someone, or parts of them, so it could be like their hair, fingernail clippings, a drop of blood, anything like that, could be crafted into the making of the poppet. But you didn't always need something that belonged or was connected with somebody, and the only thing that you need that was connected to somebody really was their name, and that goes back to the power of words. And this is once again a practice that dates back thousands of years. To know, think about it, even the Catholic Church and the exorcism rites has the power of knowing someone's name. If you knew a demon's name, it was to hold sway. The sway of power was held over the demon. So, it's going back to the power of words. Going back to poppets, so you could etch the name of somebody into the poppet, so you could carve it into the wood or into whatever you were using to represent them. Or you could just write it on a piece of paper and put it inside it somehow, or you could just name it. And the minute that inanimate object was a representation of someone, it became a puppet. So to perform what is known as sympathetic magic, all you had to do was start causing harm to the puppet, and whatever happened to the puppet happened to the person in real life. So sticking pins in, nails in, burning it, cutting it, that sort of thing. You know, these were the kind of things that you could do. And the thing is, it wasn't just an ancient European practice. There is proof that the ancient Egyptians also used puppet magic. So did the ancient Greeks, and the ancient Greeks called it kolossoi. And the thing about kolossoi was, the practice of kolossoi was, it wasn't just used for sympathetic magic. It was also used for things like banishing ghosts, binding ghosts, capturing spirits inside an effigy within the puppet. Now, with European puppets, they could also be used for a representational sympathetic magic, for healing, or so they could be used like to bind lovers together, or to heal rifts and arguments, that sort of thing, or helping a lost soul to cross over. As an interesting thought, actually, a little sideline, the word puppet comes from the word poppet. So a representation of something or someone that can be controlled or manipulated. Now, this is where the difference between that and the West African practices, definitely, that there is differences there. The West African practice that Hollywood used to combine and create what we think of as voodoo dolls, or what most people think of voodoo dolls that don't really know any different. Their representations, they could be used for positive and negative purposes, but the doll itself, the representation itself, wasn't the power, and it didn't represent really a real person. It was used more as a messenger. So you would put the message that you wanted to take to those who had the power to make things happen. So the gods, things like that, you know, gods, spirits. You would use the puppet to it was that weird where I begin with B. You would use that to send a message to those that could force change. So there we go. And the thing is, with West African, they used to use things like, so the bit with the sticking in of pins and things like that comes from the European puppet magic. Now the bit where you use like claws and feathers, and oh, there goes the cat out the window. There's another roof out there, so she's not jumping to her death or anything. So yeah, the idea is sort of like getting like animal feathers and bits of claw or bits of the person's hair and stuff like that, and tying it to the representation, that the doll, that came from the West African side, and they were quite scary looking things, and they were supposed to be scary looking things. They were supposed to be quite commanding and quite, you know, something that you took notice of, whereas I think the European puppet was supposed to be something a bit more discreet. It was something that you did secretly. So there you go. That is my talk on voodoo dolls and what they are and what they aren't, really what they aren't, because like I said, I mean, they are quite a relatively new, I suppose, Hollywood invention. It's not something that, you know, a proper voodoo doll wasn't this. The idea of sticking pins in and stuff like that definitely came more from the European poppet. But the idea of attaching things to the doll was definitely more West African. There you go. That's it. I'm going to finish these now. I think 6 down and 8 to go. 6 down, 8 to go. I'm getting there. Thank you for watching, witchy people. I'll be back very soon. And I better go and get my cat as well. Bye for now.